I want to go back to the epistle that was read, the second lesson, and Paul's image of putting on the armour of God. It's an important image for our times, I think, because we, not each of you individually, but we as a society really, have an obsession with protecting ourselves from anything that may assault us, or our families, or our neighborhoods, or our country. And it's helped us to develop an incredibly imaginative form, many forms of armor to protect ourselves from the world around us. Locked doors, burglar alarms, fences, shutters, the list goes on. Probably all the way along to the way we conduct ourselves on public transport, or how we avoid street sellers or anyone in the street, or beggars. Some teenagers, sadly in certain areas, would add knives to their list because they say they need them for protection. Americans would add guns. What is your chosen method of armor? How do you arm yourselves? We will all have something, or many things, however minor, to protect ourselves from the world around us. The weight of armor, the physical weight of armor for war, has been, since Roman times, of which Paul speaks, it's always been heavy and unwieldy and hard to get around once you start putting armor on. It never makes movement easier, only possibly protects the body enough so that you can deter would-be killers or burglars, or prevent the killing blow that others may land before you get to them. They get to you. It was clear to Paul, and Paul was probably as much of a pacifist as Jesus was, that armor in itself is not a good image. It speaks of war and violence. Yet he takes a risk and he uses this image of soldiers protecting themselves and turns it around and tries to explain how it might be used in terms of the gospel. Basically, he's saying that that sort of protection and armor is useless if one is to be a follower of Jesus Christ. We are to put on armor that draws us closer to those around us, makes us more attractive as human beings, more loving in character. So Paul's armor is different. Paul suggests that people not fight each other with real weapons, but develop a spiritual armor that helps us and others resist the evil in the world around us, that makes us less human, and actually makes us disagreeable, fearful, hateful, neglectful of those in need, even more violent. So we need to protect ourselves against the things that make us do those things. So Paul suggests that we should have the right spiritual clothing, the right relationship with one another, so we can act for Christ. And this is how we prepare for being in the world that we live in. Sometimes without even leaving our home or our street. We know the possibility of arguments, of worry that starts right at our door. We don't need to go out into the world to have those things bothering us. So how do we prepare ourselves to deal in a good way with the world around us, to be better people, more Christ-like when these things happen. So, Paul's bits of armor are like this. He says, you need a belt of truth. You need to speak the truth always. And you would think that's very straightforward. But even in this day and age, as we know from the Trump era, even now people are saying, truth is not truth. What does that mean? And so saying that very obvious thing is important in our day. We have to be true in what we say and true to one another. Righteousness. Breastplate of righteousness. Righteousness is a tricky thing. It's not self-righteousness. It's not you going around saying, well, I'm right about this, as we sometimes do, all of us. It's tricky because it takes examination, perhaps daily examination. Are we really right? Have I thought this through? Am I right about this? And is it right not just for me, but is it right for all those whose lives I touch? It takes reflection. It takes humility, because we have to change our minds. And the one bit of leeway in Paul is with his shoes. Strangely enough, he says, sort of a style statement, I guess, wear any shoes you like, as long as they lead you to peace. Be people of peace wherever you walk. And the list goes on. I'm not going to go through everything. You can look at it yourself. But the final thing, and the one he gives the most time to, is prayer. Through all of those things, be surrounded with prayer. That's really how you prepare yourself for the day, for the world you go into, all of that. Immerse yourself in prayer. Make life your prayer. And it's not always the formal prayers that we say in church, but very short prayers, or a sense of prayer that goes with you wherever you go, and in the decisions you make. So, by dismissing the conventional armor of metal and sword, Paul indicates that the most dangerous enemy to us is not a flesh and blood burglar. It will be the way evil and wrong seeps into our lives, almost like an accumulation. And that thing that makes our society more selfish, more fearful, even more violent. And it happens almost without us even knowing. And then we see the results and we say, oh, what have we become? This is the enemy. So we have a message to proclaim. And that will not always be a safe thing to do, and there isn't armor that protects us from everything. But this is the character of the message that is ours to share. One of love and openness and peace and joy, which Jesus himself brought. Jesus Christ has done the conquering, but there still is a lot of work to do in convincing others of this. And this spiritual armor that Paul speaks of is to be our aid.